Do you have questions about your employment rights? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. on CP24.
Hi there, and welcome once again to Ask a Lawyer here on CP24, the show where we shatter the myths about employment laws and employee rights, things you should know. So over the course of the next 30 minutes, you will guarantee to be learning quite a bit. I'm your host, John Scholes, and joining me briefly, very shortly actually, will be Lior Samfiru, employment lawyer from EmploymentLawyer.ca. I will tell you right off the top, if you want to have a conversation with Lior and his amazing team, you can do so. That number, 1-888-861-4555. There's always an email option, ask@employmentlawyer.ca. On the show in just a bit, our main topic is going to be times you're owed more severance than you even realized. That is here in just a bit. We always like to get warmed up, Lior, with a week that was something that crossed over your desk in recent history. What's going on with you today, pal? How are you?
Hey, John. Great to be here.
Good.
Always good to be talking employment law. That's what I like to do. And, I spend only a very small part of my day, my week here on TV. The rest of the time, I'm in the office working with individuals, helping resolve workplace problems, and, of course, making sure that everyone is informed and educated about employment law and workplace rights. That's what we do on the show. I want to make sure that if you're dealing with a workplace situation, you know what the law can do for you. You know what your options are. You know what to say if your boss does something to you. That's exactly why we're here on the show. There are so many misconceptions out there, half-truths, falsehoods when it comes to employment law. Well, not on this show. Here, I tell it to you like it is. I make sure that you have all the information so that you don't lose out, whether you lost your job, whether you're worried about your job security, maybe you're mistreated in the workplace, maybe your job has changed, you're being discriminated against. Whatever the issue, we cover it on the show, and we give you the opportunity, if you want, to reach out to me off air so we can have a chat and I can get to work and help you. We'll give you that contact information throughout the show. But as my buddy John said, let's talk about a situation that came across my desk over the past few days. I spoke with a gentleman who called me because he wanted an opinion about his severance package. Now, he was let go after about 16, almost 17 years of employment. And his employer said, listen, we're offering you an 18-month severance package. So he contacted me and he wanted to know whether that's appropriate. So I did what I do. I took a look. So in fact, the company offered him 18 months of salary. Now, 18 months is the appropriate period of time for him. After 16 plus years, yeah, he was owed about 18 months. The company offered him 18 months salary, but here's what they've also done. They said that benefits are only going to be continued for 8 weeks. Your pension contributions are going to be continued only for 8 weeks. And we're not going to pay you any bonus over those 18 months. So the only thing he was getting for 18 months is his salary. Well, is that appropriate? Well, I hope our regular viewers know what I'm about to say. No, no, no. It's not appropriate. Why? Because your severance has to include all components of your compensation. So for him, 18 months severance is what he's owed. That was the right number. That means 18 months of salary, 18 months of bonus, your benefits, your pension contributions, your car allowance if you have one, all components of your compensation, not just your salary. So for this gentleman, even though the company said 18 months is the right period of time, and they were right, his severance package was still about $50,000 short of where it needed to be because they didn't include all components of compensation. I'm helping him get that resolved. It's going to get resolved very quickly, not a problem. But I wanted to remind all our viewers of that today. When it comes to losing your job and your severance, it's not just your salary. It's everything. All components of the compensation have to be included. And if they're not included, you're owed more, you got to give me a call.
In addition to enjoying this half hour every Wednesday evening with you, Lior and I, we also do a ton of radio shows across the country. We're coming up on 10 years, pal. That's coming up pretty soon. We've been doing this Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers radio dance, you and I, for a decade as well. You can catch it on News Talk 1010. That is Sundays at 1 p.m. Got a lot of phone calls on the show. We talk to a lot of people. Our listeners and our viewers want to know things, and you can call in anytime to one of those radio shows. Go to EmploymentLawyer.ca to find another station, maybe across the country if you'd like. But we play some of them back here and we talk about him. Our first phone call from the radio show. Lior's coming up right now.
My wife, she lost her job. The company she worked for closed their specific offices where she worked. They're still up and running in other places, but no severance or nothing, and they just kind of laid her off. Is she entitled to severance? She's gone through the Ministry of Labor. The question was whether or not there was a federally registered company, which I believe they are. She was 5 years an office administrator, 41.
So, of course, John, of course she is owed severance. Absolutely. She lost her job. If you want to know if you get severance, you ask yourself a simple question. Did I lose my job? If the answer is yes, you are owed severance. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter whether the company is federally or provincially regulated. Either way, your employer has to pay you your full severance, which could be as much as 24 months. Does not matter, again, federal or provincial. Here's the thing, though. You cannot, whether you work for a federally regulated or provincially regulated company, you cannot go to the Ministry of Labor, you cannot go to the government for help when it comes to losing your job. For that, you have to speak with someone like me. You have to speak with an employment lawyer. You can go to the government for other things, with respect to your overtime and vacation pay, etc. Sure, absolutely. Not when it comes to losing your job. Government can't help you. So we know that this person is owed severance. I said that, absolutely. The question then becomes, how does she find out how much severance she's owed? Well, here's how she can do that. Here's how you can do that at home as well. You go to the severance calculator. It's that simple. You go to EmploymentLawyer.ca, use the severance calculator there and see what you get. Let's use that for this person and see how much severance they're owed. I'm going to EmploymentLawyer.ca. So an office administrator of 5 years of seniority, she lost her job. For some reason, company says, oh, no, we're not going to pay you severance. Nonsense. That's a wrongful dismissal because you see on the screen there, she's owed about 6 months severance, 6 months. Now, that's how easy it is to use the severance calculator. Do the same. If you lost your job or are worried about losing your job, it's free and anonymous, so check it out.
All right, we'll get into our first break for the show, Lior, and when upon our return, we're getting to 2 times you are owed more severance than you even thought. There is those times. It's practically every time. But as we get into a break here, the way to reach out to Lior and crew, 1-888-861-4555, ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca. Lots more Ask a Lawyers on the way. Stick around.
You have questions about your employment rights? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. on CP24.
All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for hanging around here and sticking with us on Ask a Lawyer. John Scholes here. With me, of course, employment lawyer Lior Samfiru. Reaching out anytime. You're encouraged always to do so, to make that phone call, right? 1-888-861-4555. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca. Lior, let's get into it. Our main topic for the day, times when you owed more severance than you even realized. This is a huge list, but I think we got it down to about 4 or 5 different points. So let's roll into this right away, pal. First one is when you've been terminated for cause. How about that, pal?
Now, first thing I'll say is this: the times that you're owed more severance than you realize is probably every time, okay? Because in most cases, almost every case, in fact, when someone is let go, the severance that they're owed is more than they've been offered and more than they realize. So always, 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 you want to make sure you get that advice if you lose your job, but especially if your employer says they're letting you go for cause. The reason for that is you may think, well, I did something wrong. The company is letting me go for cause, so I get no severance. Maybe I get little severance. It is extremely difficult to terminate employment for cause. Very, very difficult. It's reserved for the worst offenders. And there's no such thing as almost cause. Even if you did something wrong, chances are you're still owed your full severance. That could be as much as 24 months pay. So just because the company says, we're letting you go for cause, you did something wrong, and you did do something wrong, it still does not mean you're deprived of that severance. You have to give me a call. In almost every one of those cases, what we're really looking at is a wrongful dismissal.
All right, good stuff. Lior, number 2 is when your company has been taken over by a new employer. Break that down.
So oftentimes a company gets sold, you continue working with the buyer. Maybe you're offered a job by the buyer and it's easy to think, well, I'm not owed any severance. Well, not so fast. if your business is sold, you're owed severance if you don't accept the job with the buyer. Certainly, if you lose your job and you don't accept, there's no job for you with the buyer, then yeah, if you don't continue working, you're owed severance. But even if you continue working, or if you have that possibility, if you choose not to do so, you're owed severance, and you can get severance from your employer. Now, the only time you're not going to be owed severance is a situation where you actually accept the job and continue working. The new buyer inherits your service, and then that continues on. But yeah, with the sale of a business, you'd be surprised just how much severance you're actually owed.
Again, our main topic we're working through here is times you owe more severance than you realize. This one as well, when you've been fired after only being on the job for a short time, right?
Absolutely. Very easy to think, well, I've only worked for a short time, a few months. I'm probably not owed much severance. Maybe I'm owed a week. Maybe I'm owed 2 weeks if I'm really lucky. Wrong. Not at all. Remember the rule. Short service employees are actually treated disproportionately better than longer service employees. So because of that, even after working for a few months, you could be owed a few months of severance. You work for 4 months, you could be owed 2, 3, 4 months of severance, even more than that. The length of severance can even be longer than the length of employment. Represented thousands of people over the years with short service. We got them many months of severance. And that's not just because we're good, it's because that's what the law provides. So yes, short service employees get much more severance than you realize.
Okay, Lior, point number 4, you may be owed more severance when you've been working as an independent contractor. We can do an entire show on that topic, right?
And in fact, I think we should and we will.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, so many quote-unquote independent contractors are in fact misclassified. They're really employees. The law makes that decision. You don't decide. I don't decide. The company you work for doesn't decide. The law decides if you're an employee or an independent contractor. And because of that, if you truly are an employee in the eyes of the law, then guess what? You're owed your severance. Not just a week, not just 2 weeks. It could be as much as 2 years of severance, 2 years. So it's important to understand, even if you think, you believe you're an independent contractor, even if you signed an agreement that says that, even if you pay taxes on your own, even if you have an incorporated company, if you lose your job, chances are you're still an employee in the eyes of the law, at least as far as severance is concerned, and you're owed that full severance. You need to give me a call.
Let's get to one more of these, Lior, and this one's actually a good one. When you've been let go, or at least when you've been hired without signing an employment contract. We like that.
Absolutely. Not signing an employment agreement equals severance, okay? Not signing an employment agreement means you have the full right to the full severance that the law provides. The reason for that, what an employment agreement often does, is it takes away some of the severance you'd be owed. It limits your severance. It can have what we call a termination clause that restricts your rights. So starting a job without having signed an employment agreement is best. Signing something on the back of a napkin, it's a handshake deal. All those are much, much better than having an employment agreement that potentially limits your entitlement. So that's why, if you lost your job, even if you have an agreement, we probably can get around it. But if you hadn't signed an employment agreement, you're really a happy person. You're owed your full severance. And again, that could be easily as much as 2 years' pay. I
want to mention again, you can catch Lior and I on radio across the country, especially on News Talk 1010. That happens Sundays at 1 p.m. All kinds of opportunity over the course of that hour to call in and talk to us, ask your questions. We'll get to phone call number 2, Lior, right now.
If you work for a company for a long time and they want to change the days you're working, is that considered constructive dismissal if you don't want to change your days? In other words, going from Monday to Friday to having to work on Saturdays?
So, John, changing your days of work is always going to be considered a significant change. Always. Your days of work is one of the most fundamental terms of your employment. So using this example, if you work Monday to Friday, now they want you to work Tuesday to Saturday, that's a big deal. And anytime we say big deal, what we mean is you're looking potentially at a constructive dismissal. Anytime your job, whether it's your compensation, your hours of work, your days of work, any of that changes in a significant way, you may have the ability to treat that change as a constructive dismissal and leave with your full severance. So you have a choice. You can accept that change and continue working. But by the way, by doing that, you're giving the company the right to do it again. or you can treat that as a termination, constructive dismissal. So yes, having now to work weekends when you never worked weekends before, yeah, that's a constructive dismissal always.
We'll take a short break, Lior, and when we come back, we're going to talk about being cut from a call center job after asking for accommodation, and then the size of a company's payroll, how that can affect termination. In the meantime, how to reach out, 1-888-861-4555 and ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca. We'll continue. Lots more Ask a Lawyer is on the way.
You have questions about your employment rights? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. on CP24.
All right, welcome back to Ask a Lawyer. You can reach out to Lior Samfiru anytime. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca and the phone number 1-888-861-4555. And also on News Talk 1010, that's our radio show. 1 p.m. on Sundays is when you can catch Lior and I doing that for an hour. Lior, let's grab phone call number 3 from our radio show. Talk about it.
Last year, I was terminated. I was working at a call center. I was there for 7 months. Because of a previous accident that I had, I was having a lot of pain on my neck, and I made a request for medical reasons to accommodate me in certain things. 2 weeks after, I was let go, and I wanted to know if I had some rights here.
Oh, she absolutely has rights. So let's be very clear. An employer has an obligation, a legal obligation to accommodate if there's a medical condition. That's not an option. It's not a nice to have. It's a legal requirement, legal obligation. So if she had needed a medical accommodation, her employer had to accommodate. Well, they refused, but that wasn't enough. Refusing wasn't enough. They actually had to let her go. Well, that's making it even worse. So we're looking at a human rights violation here, and a very serious one is that. Refuse to accommodate and actually terminating employment. Can't do that, ever. There's going to be significant consequences. So right off the bat, that's issue number 1 here, this failure to accommodate, this human rights violation. The second issue, of course, separate from the first one, is that of severance. And this is a great example of what I was talking about before. We're talking about short service employees and how they get a lot of severance. Well, this person worked there for 7 months. That's obviously going to be considered a short service employee. So let's go back to PocketEmploymentLawyer.ca and let's use our severance calculator once more and see after 7 months how much severance this person actually gets. So she's in the customer service, she's working in a call center, been there only for 7 months. She's 55 years of age. Her employer felt that they shouldn't accommodate and shouldn't have to pay severance. Wrong. On the severance front, we see that's as much as 4 months severance, even only working there for 7 months. So you see what I mean? Significant severance even for a short service employee, and of course, human rights violation as well. If any of that sounds familiar to you, you have to give me a call.
In addition to lawyering and TV and radio, Lior does a lot of live streaming on Facebook and YouTube as well. You want to get in on it, go to stlawyers.ca. Lior, I want to get to a question from the live stream. Says, my now former employer told me that because the company has a small payroll, I'm not entitled to any pay after losing my job. Is that the law in Ontario?
Love this question because there's a huge misconception there, and an important misconception that both employees and employers fall for, and that is that the size of the company's payroll is relevant. It's not. Now, your minimum entitlements may be affected by whether or not the company has a small or a large payroll, but your full entitlements, which is really all that matters, is irrelevant to the size of the company's payroll. So you can get your full severance, and you do get your full severance whether you work for a company with 1 employee or 1,000 employees. It does not matter. Your full severance can be as much as 24 months. So the size of the company's payroll is ultimately not going to change anything. It's not going to impact how much you're owed. So I've seen people fall for this all the time. A lot of misconceptions online. Frankly, the government is guilty also of providing this misconception or not explaining it properly. I hope I explained it properly. Size of the company's payroll, ultimately not relevant to the issue of the severance that you're owed.
So what could happen if you don't get that termination in writing? We will tackle that after a short break, Lior. In the meantime, reaching out again, 1-888-861-4555 and ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca. Lots more Ask a Lawyer is on the way. Stick around.
Do Do you have questions about your employment rights? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. on CP24.
All right, welcome back to Ask a Lawyer. To reach out to Lior anytime when the show's not on air, of course, 1-888-861-4555, ask@employmentlawyer.ca. We have time for one more question, Lior. I want to get to it right now. Goes like this. Says, my boss recently surprised me with a phone call saying I'm no longer needed by the company, but she followed up with an email saying that she accepts my resignation. What should I do?
This actually happens more often than you think when an employer lets you go. It's not in writing and then says that you've resigned. So I hate that. I don't like that he said, she said situation. So anytime your employer sends you a message or calls you saying you were let go, you write to them, send them an email, a text message right after telling them, I'm confirming that you let me go, okay? I want that confirmed by you in writing. Now, beyond that, here's what I'm going to say. If it's too late and they've already said that you've resigned, you write them back and say, no, I didn't resign. So to the extent that we misunderstood, no problem. I'll be in and work tomorrow. Let them say, don't come into work. You want to make sure that they terminate you. And the difference, resignation and the termination, is severance. With the termination, severance. With the resignation, no severance. You don't want that.
Good stuff, quick and dirty. That's how we like it, pal. We're just about done for another show. You'll want to reach out to Lior, by the way, doing the radio show with Lior and me, News Talk 1010, Sundays at 1 p.m. And, of course, this show, Ask a Lawyer, Wednesdays on CP24. More information and contact cp24.com/askalawyer. And we'll see you again. The phone number, 1-888-861-4555 and ask@employmentlawyer.ca. Thank you so much, and we'll return again next week as well. Thank you.